Hello, and welcome to this episode at the Summit. Today, we're going to have a really great panel. It's, a peer panel. It's people who are living the CMMC journey. I don't know why I struggle with that. My name is Roy Hadley. I am an attorney with Adams and Reese, but I'm also on the Georgia Defense Industrial Base Task Force. And we're just excited today. We've got three people, again, who are living the CMMC journey. First, we have Allison Stewart, who Allison is waving for us, who is going to really kind of talk about her journey. She's with Top Flight Aerostructures, Inc. We also have Allison Giddens, and I've always looked down and make sure I'm reading these things correctly. She's co-president at WinTech, Inc. And we also have Miguel Garcia, who is a project manager at Collins Manufacturing Company. And these are three people again who are living this journey with us. The purpose of this panel is to get you jump started. We're going to talk about things that get you jump started if you haven't started your CMMC journey yet. And we're also going to talk about things that may get you unstuck if you are started your journey and you don't really know where you're going to end up or how to get going again. We're going to go for about 45 minutes and then we're going to have Q&A. So if you do have Q&A, save it and we'll put it in the chat and we will actually answer those questions for you at the end of the presentation. So we're going to get going here. I'm not normally formal, but because we have two Allisons, I'm going to refer to them as Miss Stewart and Miss Giddens. And, so that Miguel doesn't feel left out, I'm going to refer to him as Mr. Garcia, just so that he, feels at home with everybody else. So with that, I'm going to turn to Miss Giddens to start us off. What do you do at WinTech? What is WinTech? And then we'll get into your CMMC journey. But just who are you and what do you do?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be with some rock stars on this panel. My name is Allison Giddens, and I work for WinTech, an aerospace machine shop located in Kennesaw, and been here for 14 years. 14 and a half years, technically. Just bought the company from my mentor and founder, along with my business partner. So John and I now own WinTech as of October of 2020.
Fantastic. Congrats on that.
Thank you. Thank you. I primarily handle the operations and IT side, while John handles the manufacturing side, the difficult side. They gave me the easy side. But for the past year and a half, I've been the one living and breathing CMMC. So it's a full-time job, but we can do it. So looking forward to today's discussion.
Absolutely. Now, what does WinTech do? Tell us a little bit about that.
We are an aerospace precision machine shop. So we do a lot of work for defense industry, a lot of the big primes, some direct government, the occasional direct government customer, but generally aerospace. Started off as a tooling shop just because we were right down the street from Lockheed Martin. So it was very convenient for their engineers to stop by and we could help with projects, and that's just grown into bigger and better things. So now we've got just under 50 employees and we're rocking and rolling.
Okay, fantastic. All right, Ms. Stewart, you're up. Tell us a little bit about you and what you do and a little bit about the company.
Well, my name's Allison Stewart. I have been with the company for about 6 years. And actually, that's how long I've been working in the aerospace industry too. So they have taught me so much just by being there. And I am the compliance analyst, and I'm in charge of training development there at Top Flight. So I work on a lot of program development and making sure that we are compliant and our programs are compliant with DFARS and flow downs and other requirements that we have going on. And Top Flight is located in Dallas, Georgia, and just a small manufacturing plant. Sorry about that. And we have about 36 employees. We just hired our 36 employees, so we're very small. And we work mainly on C5 bonded panels.
Okay.
A little of everything. So we have a CNC machine shop, we have a clean room, We have a bunch of manufacturers that work on the shop floor in sheet metal and areas like that. So we do a little bit of everything.
Very nice, cool. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Garcia, tell us a little bit about Collins Manufacturing.
Happy to, Roy. We are located in Macon, Georgia. We have, we're having a lunch and learn next week, and the count of employees was 46. So that's our size roughly. I've been with the company since 2017. And when I got here, I was employee number 13. So we've had quite a bit of growth, not just in number of employees, but in facilities. When I started, we had essentially one facility, and which is kind of our main shop. And half of it was essentially outside where we worked on concrete platforms for some of our larger projects. And now that's all indoors. We've covered that. And then we've purchased 3 additional buildings kind of in our campus in the industrial area of Macon, and are in the process of purchasing an additional 125,000 square foot, not so close to our facilities here, but we hope to have that finalized at the end of May. So we are definitely growing, and we're also a precision machine shop, Allison. Maybe we can work together sometime. Allison and Allison. Right. So, but mainly we are generally a prime in all of our contracts. Okay. We're a woman-owned 8A small business. Nice. Our owners, Gwen and Larry Collins, are both engineers, both very smart. And it's a pleasure to work with good, very, very intelligent people that humble you pretty much on a regular basis by how much they remember and how detail-oriented they are. But most of our contracts are as primes. Like I said, we do work for Lockheed Martin's and some of the other primes as a sub, but we prefer to kind of go a different route and try and secure those contracts on our own and work directly with the government. It's probably the vast majority of what we do are DoD contracts. Machine shop, 8 or 9 turning centers, CNC mills. We have a fiber optic laser, 8-bay tower, which is automated, so it runs basically 24 hours a day, and water jet capabilities. What's unusual about our machine shop is we have quite a bit of certified welding as well. So we do a lot of aluminum components and a lot of stainless steel. We built a little platform that this F-15 is sitting on outside the museum here. That's why it's my background picture. And my personal project is the AMRAAM missile containers, which are aluminum containers to hold AMRAAM missiles. And with regard to CMMC, let me tell you, it has been about a 1.5-year journey for us as well, and has been quite a mountain to climb. Obviously, we're still there, but happy to talk and happy to discuss kind of how we got here as well.
Fantastic. So, we've been talking a lot and, getting ready for this panel. And I thought about all 3 of you because, and this has nothing to do with anything, it's my children will say sometimes, but a few weeks back when the president visited Georgia, I was going up 75, going towards Kennesaw, and Air Force One flew over the highway, landing at Dobbins. And if you've never seen Air Force One flying, it's an impressive, it's an impressive sight, just for our country for a whole lot of reasons, but it was flying right over the highway, landing at Dobbins. So like I said, as my children would say, that has nothing to do with anything, but I thought of all of you all, when it happened. So I'm going to get back on focus here. I'm going to turn to Allison S. Ms. Stewart. What level of CMMC are you trying, is your company trying to get to?
Level 3, because we do have drawing, and mainly drawings is the reason why we're a level 3.
Okay.
Because we will have CUI on site that make sure is secured, and it is stored on our networks and everything like that. So we're a very small business trying to achieve actually a very large amount of regulations.
Okay. And Ms. Giddens?
Kind of the same boat, a similar boat. We do have CUI, so we're anticipating that level 3, depending on kind of the way the wind blows in the next few years, depending on contract levels and programs. As you know, the more nuclear or weapon systems you get, you kind of go up in levels. So just kind of creating an environment where level 3 makes sense, but not limiting us to where we've pigeonholed ourselves and in not being able to grow.
Okay, and then round it out, Miguel.
Level 3 also for the exact same reasons. We do a lot of work on some kind of secret squirrel projects,
Okay.
the U2, some things like that. And although they're very old and they're done on 1954 drawings, they're still CUI. Right. And so we have the same exact issues. And I got to be honest with you, Roy, in looking at the requirements, I think everybody ought to try for level 3, to be honest with you, just to solve so many problems down the road. Right. I can't imagine spending effort to get a level 1 and then turning around and realizing very quickly, because one contract comes down the road, that suddenly I have to amp up considerably. So that would be my suggestion as well.
Now, one thing you did, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, if I can interject there, Miguel's saying that it would just be good to kind of just get a level 3. That I would agree with that, even just on a level of subcontractor flow downs. So we use a lot of vendors and subcontractors to do stuff that we can't do in-house or don't have the time to do in-house. And to be able to even share some of the information that we have with those other vendors, they would have to be a level 3, or we as a company would have to demonstrate that we have taken away all the information that is supposed to be kept secured and protected, and then present them with maybe even like a top flight drawing. And they lose out on knowledge that could actually make sure that everything's in conformance and that they're actually giving the product to us that we want. So if somebody's works with small machine shops or even other DoD contractors, you're probably going to also be required to be a level 3.
And you read my mind, Allison, because my next question, and I was going to Miguel only because he said that they typically act as a prime, is kind of what are you requiring of your subs. So let's stay with that for a second, and I'll open this up to anybody. Are your subs having troubles with CMMC? I know you all are all relative, I'm not going to say small businesses, but you're not Lockheeds of the world, right? But you're still in that prime situation sometimes where you're having flow downs and you're having subs work with you. Are your subs having troubles with CMMC?
I think so, for sure. It's kind of chicken and egg. Mm-hmm. So right now, and I'm sure Miguel and Allison S can attest to this, is we don't even really know what CUI is, right? I mean, we've been given sort of a generic definition, but anyone watching, anyone as a part of the summit, if you're in the early part of your journey, you're like, okay, first off, as a manufacturer, we define our parameters, right? We understand what it is we're working with. Well, what do you want me to protect? Drawings. Okay, what does that mean? Well, every drawing is something that says ITAR, something that says FOUO. I mean, that has yet to truly be defined in terms of marked. So, I mean, there's all kinds of definitions all over the place, but I have yet to get something that says CUI. So for me to have conversations with my sub tiers and my suppliers and say, what are you anticipating for CMMC? They're saying exactly what the three of us are saying, which is, well, we're doing the best we can to prepare for, fill in the blank. But, the poor assessors for CMMC don't even really have their game plan. So we don't even really know what they're going to be assessed to. So it's a chicken and egg, and the best you can do, I think, is just plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree. And it's really tough for, one of the nice things about our operation is we're pretty vertically integrated. I mean, we do a lot of things. We do our own welding in-house and, that sort of thing. But when we come to finishes, that's capability we're going to add. We don't have it right now. And there's always that conversation about what can I give you? What can I not give you? Do I have to redact, as Allison was saying? And it's very difficult to make those judgment calls. And I think that if you're level 3, that it's almost a marketing advantage, because I'm going to seek you out and I'm going to say, okay, you're the person I need to work with to accomplish this, just to save ourselves, headache and a lot of man hours in adjusting things to be able to work for you. It is kind of daunting for small businesses, smaller than us, because those are the little machine shops that traditionally we may turn to them and say, hey, our VF10 is full right now. Can you, I could say we're making ramps for Air Force One, which we did, Roy.
Oh, really? Okay.
So, yeah, so we can't get to you right now. That's something we would turn over to a smaller machine shop. We're having to rethink those, which is one of the reasons why we're expanding our capabilities. All honesty, it's actually maybe more reasonable to do that because these smaller businesses are not, they're having a tough time, which is why I appreciate what Cassie is doing here, getting on board.
Right. And just so everybody knows, if you haven't seen her already, Cassia Baker, who's with the Georgia Department of Economic Development, who is kind of spearheading, along with Amy Hutnell, the CMMC effort and the CMMC task force for the Georgia Defense Industrial Base. So when Miguel says Cassia, that's who he's referring to. So let's talk a little bit. Let's step back a little bit and talk about your journey, CMMC. How long is, and I'm going to pick on, we'll pick on Allison Giddens first. But your CMMC journey, how long ago did you start the journey, and kind of where are you on that journey?
So started way back in 1954. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
Started back when,
whoops.
I know, right? When NIST 800-171 came to be, honestly, when those flow downs began and we started hearing more and more rumblings of certain cybersecurity requirements flowed down to us by the primes. Right. We started saying, okay, we got to get serious with this. This 800-171 showing up, and we've got to adhere to certain policies. And then it seemed like we all blinked, and then NIST 800, or I'm sorry, you know what I mean, 800-171 all of a sudden became CMMC, and it was like not overnight, but it expanded. I mean, it's now CMMC is NIST on steroids. So where we are is we're trying to really embrace a lot of the gap analysis that we did 2 years ago or so, but there's still so many different, and I'm sure that my two friends over here can attest to this too, there's still expensive parts of the process that in order to change or evolve, you're essentially going to change your processes on the shop floor. And so you have to kind of weigh your overall investment compared to, all right, am I cutting off my nose to spite my face? Am I doing this for the better of the company and national security, or am I doing this to check a box? So really, that's constantly the questions that we're asking ourselves for everything that we're trying to do.
Gotcha. And what about you, Miguel? When did your journey start? And I just love the word journey for some reason. It makes it seem like it's this long road, and it is. But when did your journey start?
It's really not that fun, Roy.
I know. Trust me, I know.
Yeah.
But it makes it sound fun.
Yeah, a journey like boot camp is a journey, I guess.
That's true too. Right.
Well, for us, I want to say very early on, maybe 6 months here at Collins,
okay.
Into it. So late 2017.
Okay.
I attended I can't remember, a conference at Georgia Tech in Atlanta by the P-Tech up there, and they discussed NIST 800-171. I think that was the first time I'd heard the term. And at that point, they didn't even have the framework available. They were just promising us that a framework would be coming down the line, okay, and that would be the end. That's what they told us.
Right.
And so we kind of prepared for that framework, talked to our IT service providers, pretty early on in that process, shared the potential framework, which of course would later on turn into CMMC and right, expand greatly the controls and the requirements on a small business like ours. But that's where it began for us, Roy. And I gotta say, the way I view it, and I agree with what Allison Giddens said, is it's very interesting because for whether you're going to live it or whether you're just going to check a box, that makes a really big difference. And I would liken it for anybody that's a machine shop out there. you know, a manufacturer, you know, we're AS9100, we're an AS9100 facility, and that's one of my projects as well, is getting that certification. We're always operating under that quality system, but we obtained the certification since I've been here, and that was one of the things I was tasked with, which is really interesting from a manufacturer's perspective, because we didn't want to check a box with AS9100, if that makes sense. We wanted to live it. Our processes needed to be there. This was not something that we did just to get a credential or to get a contractor. You know, at that point, it wasn't even required. It is now for 99% of our contracts that we operate. At the time, it wasn't even required. You could just have a little DCMA audit and you were fine. Well, those times are long gone. But anyway, so we really lived it. We wrote our own quality manual system. We did our own auditing. We didn't, you know, hire somebody to come in and tell us how to do this. We're a manufacturer. We know how that works. We know our processes. So we started from the very beginning on AS9100. Well, then you flash forward to CMMC. We're not an IT company. We cannot make it ourselves. We don't understand the controls. And we may be a little nerdy, but you know, that's it. And that all, you know, is out the window when you get to a network. Right. So anyway, so it's a different journey. And I would tell your small businesses that you may understand what you do. Obviously, hopefully you do. That's why you're in business and that's why you're doing well. But when you get into CMMC, that's why it's kind of a scary thing, because you don't control it. I mean, it's not your regular course of your business, and it's equally as daunting as, you know, a whole new quality management system. Anyway, that was our kind of journey, and that's the way I approach it.
All right, Allison S.
Well, I mean, just to piggyback on Allison G and Miguel, I mean, we've had a very similar journey. I would say we've been working on CMMC for a little over a year and a half now. And of course, we were NIST compliant, or we are NIST compliant, I should say. But when CMMC came out, all those clarifications in the appendix came out, which were clarifications are also NIST requirements, because the NIST are really nicely nestled right there in CMMC. And so our journey, we started actually to try to bite off more of an elephant than we could chew, because when CMMC was first released, the government and the DOD didn't even know what the timeline was going to look like. And they were saying, well, everybody had to be certified. I believe it was by like July of this year. And of course, that has changed over the past couple of years as things roll out, and now they're doing like a pilot program this year. But that was daunting to us, and NIST was daunting to us when we even complied with that. And we were super lucky, and we outsourced in a third-party IT company that said, hey, you should just get as spooled up as you can on this, because there's probably more stuff coming down the line. And so we got the benefit of being a little bit more prepared when CMMC and all those regulations were released, but we're having to go back now and make sure that we are 100% NIST compliant. So you were talking about later in this seminar, you guys are going to talk about NIST and like uploading, you know, your score into SPARS and all that kinds of stuff. So right now we're trying to achieve that 110 points on so that we can say, yes, we're 100% compliant to that. And then we will move into the rest of the CMMC regulations. So that is what we're working on currently. And also just looking to the future, looking at what costs are going to be to buy new expensive equipment that you may not have even thought you would need.
Right.
And software, and how that is going to interfere with our everyday manufacturing, because we have a lot of antiquated machines that we even have a machine that still runs XP. So we have to decide, are we going to completely rebuild that whole entire system so that it can support all of the software that has to be on it? Or are we going to do something like an air gap or sneaker gate it for a little while until we can come up with a better solution?
Right. And you brought up some great points. I mean, you know, I can't tell you how many times I'm out and about and you run into legacy systems that are running on XP. And, you know, what do you do about that? And now, you know, the question is starting to percolate a little bit about, you know, Windows 7 and stuff running on Windows 7, you know, given Microsoft's support or you know, non-support of 7 going forward. So all of those things, are just hurdles, but I'm going to round this back up here, because our goal here is to make sure that we encourage people. So, and get everybody on board with CMMC. But, the realities are kind of what they are. And so in the reality vein, I'm going to hop to you, Miguel, and just say, kind of what has been your biggest challenge at Collins, and then, kind of what do you think the biggest challenge has been for your subs? And it may be money, whatever you think that biggest challenge is. And then I'm going to ask you to just follow up with some thoughts on how maybe, especially for your subs or somebody listening to this that's beginning their journey or trying to jumpstart their journey, just a piece of practical advice for them as to kind of how to overcome those things, those obstacles that you've seen. Well, that's a big question.
Yeah, let me try and answer it, Roy. First of all, we are optimistic. I mean, we feel like we've come a long way from where we are. Like Allison G had said, I mean, we're doing this for the better. We're here to support the warfighter. It's 99% of what we do. And we feel like we're doing things that are congruent with that mission. We're not doing things to check boxes. We're actually, we're accomplishing something. But it does require a fundamental change. Just to make Allison S feel better, I think we have a machine that runs Windows 3.1 on our water jet. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think the windows can overlap on the screen, but still, it's not connected to our network, obviously. But in any event, so in terms of our journey and my practical advice for somebody out there is like Allison S had said, you know, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? And it's not that difficult to find an IT provider that can help you with the basics. Now, I'm going to say an IT provider that understands CMMC or even NIST, that may be a different animal entirely. And that's one of the challenges. You had asked me, Roy, what was our largest challenge? I'd say the largest challenge was finding somebody that it's in the IT provider business local to us that could support us, that understands the mission. I feel like some of what we did was educate them. And then they got their engineers involved, and then we got somewhere with them. But, you know, our particular provider was familiar with regulations for banks and things like that, and less so about DoD things. So our biggest challenge is honestly finding a partner, and it cost us some money, obviously, but that was interested in helping us with these basic controls. I mean, we had really basic things that we weren't doing, and I'm glad we do now. I mean, just simple stuff, the way you log in, changing passwords. I mean, you got to start with those little tiny things, and eventually you're getting to where you can get that score that you want, Allison S, in the system. We're approaching the 110 as well. We're trying to, but that would be my suggestion. You got to find a partner, unless you want to get personally into the IT business, that kind of understands what you're doing. Without that, we wouldn't be as far along as we are on our let's call it our road march. Much more arduous than a journey. My Army days are coming back.
There you go, flashback. So
right.
Let me follow up though. Yeah. You mentioned finding a partner. Once you found that partner and kind of, as you said, educated them, is that something that, kind of thinking out loud here, when a small company is trying to get up to speed on CMMC and gets, that process, maybe a thought is to reach out to their prime and see who their prime is using as that IT partner, and then use them, because hopefully at that point they're kind of a little more educated on CMMC and what the requirements are.
Yeah, that's certainly true, Roy. And we have suggested our provider, and this is one of the, so we're talking to your IT provider and they're local and we like them. We've had a good relationship with them. And we tell them, you're going to invest a lot of money in supporting me in CMMC. And then the answer is, well, I'm a marketing guy too. I'm also business development here at Collins. We wear a lot of hats. And one of the things I said was, hey, we're going to find you other customers. And indeed we have. So that has helped them support us better. It's kind of economies of scale. They're not learning just to support Collins. They're supporting also our local businesses that we've suggested to them. We're kind of fortunate in the Middle Georgia area. the machine shops, the sheet metal shops around here, we work together. You know, if we need a capability, we can call up our neighbor and say, hey, you know, can you bend this for me? Can you do this sort of thing? And so there's a lot of communication there. So we've had probably 3 or 4 local machine shops come to us and say, what are you doing on CMMC? You know, what's this requirement? Why are you asking me to sign these things? And so it's kind of grown that way, Roy. In my opinion, and here's my word of encouragement to the small businesses. If you eat this elephant, if you start on this road march, it will make you more marketable, both to primes and to the government. So there's a carrot dangling there. I view it as an opportunity, trying to be squared away on this topic, as difficult as it is.
Fantastic. All right. So Allison G, your thoughts on this, on Allison S's elephant?
Yes, so that elephant. I think one of the biggest challenges for us as we got started, especially for me, I felt kind of like I was alone in it. And it was difficult to be some of those early stage adopters to some of the terminology and some of what was coming down the line. I would make the suggestion to anyone starting out, watch your sources. So just like media literacy and just like, news craziness out there, look at motives, look at what webinars and what summits you're attending, and ones like this that are legitimately based in reality. And there is no quote ulterior motive outside of shared resources, shared information. When you watch webinars and summits hosted by IT companies or software providers, you will gain knowledge. I do not dispute that in the slightest, but you just have to remember that there is no quick fix. You're not going to be able to write a check to somebody and they're magically going to get 80% of your controls covered.
Right.
That's just not going to happen. If it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. I would go into all of this recognizing that it's going to cost money. And yes, there are allowable costs involved. So it's not as though you're never going to recoup costs. To Miguel's point, this is a marketing thing. You will, if you do this right, you'll be marketable and you will be coveted by primes and government. So I've heard a lot of numbers thrown around on when people say, well, how much is this going to cost me? And how, what do I have to expect to spend? And I have lately been hearing 2 numbers from different sources that I trust. So I'm starting to recognize some themes. I've heard if you spend 2% of your revenue on IT cybersecurity, that's approximately in line with what is, I don't know if recommended is the right word, but you can kind of look if you're new to this journey / road march. If you're new to this and you take your budget and spell it all out, look at 2019, because 2020 is a goof. So let's just look at 2019. And if you look at that and say, what did I spend IT cybersecurity wise? If it's substantially lower than 2%, you might have a little bit of a bigger gap to kind of get to where you need to be. And I don't know that that's rote. I don't know that is the Bible, but I think it's some good guidance.
A good benchmark. Okay. Wow. And so for a smaller company, 2%, that's a good benchmark. Okay. All right. So I'm going to turn to you, Ms. Stewart. Time to eat your elephant.
My elephant, yay. I would actually say the biggest challenge that we had or currently have is implementation of those changes in policy. So you want CMMC to be your culture, which we haven't used that word, but we've alluded to that term.
Right.
You want it to be a part of your culture so that you aren't just checking a box, so that you can make sure that when you do have your audits and everything, you're not scrambling right before it, trying to check all your boxes and show that you have it. You want it to be a part of everything. And so it's a journey, it's a march, but teaching and developing the training internally and working with outside sources and everything like that to make sure that you're communicating how important it is and really, really making your coworkers want to live with, even so much as locking your computer screen before you walk away so that nobody else can do anything under your profile. I would say that's just a really good, simple example of a requirement that, I'll even admit, sometimes it's hard for me. Right. I get up to go walk away from my computer and I'll go, oh, wait, and I'll turn around and lock it again. So just implementing that culture, it'll get there, but it is a little bit of a journey. And I would say that's been our biggest thing so far, other than what Allison G and Miguel have already mentioned, making sure you're getting really good sources and, finding a good IT company to work with you and other things like that.
Right. And I think, I love the word that you brought the word up, the culture, because that's the thing that we always tell companies that we're working with, you've got to adopt a culture of cybersecurity, because to everyone's point here, you can't just check the boxes, because if you're just checking the boxes, you're going to be in trouble. And that's whether you're going for level 1, level 3, or 5, whatever it may be. You really do have to adopt that culture of cybersecurity. And for some organizations, particularly ones that have not paid attention to it in the past, either with financial resources, technical resources, or human resources, you're just going to have troubles. So we're getting close to the end. Go ahead, Allison. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, if I can interject one more thing.
Absolutely.
Just about culture. If your company has a good culture with CMMC or AS 9100 or whatever kind of policies that you have, it's easier for your coworkers and your company to explain them to your subcontractors and your vendors and your suppliers. Because if you're not living it, how can you expect somebody else to do it too?
Right. And that's a great point, because, one of the things that we always tell people is, your first line is your people, right? And you can put all the technical things in place you want to, but if your people aren't doing what they need to be doing, or if they're doing stuff they don't need to be doing, you're going to have trouble. And to your point, Allison, if your people are living it, then they're in a much better position to talk to subs, talk to suppliers, call subs and suppliers out if they're doing something wrong that may lead to troubles down the road. So that's a great point. So as we round out here, and we're getting close to the end, getting close to time for Q&A, I do want to just, kind of circle back to everybody. And, I'm gonna talk for a second to give you time to think about this answer to this question. But the question is going to be, and you've given great advice throughout here, lot of tidbits, but I want that one nugget for a company that, again, hasn't started yet on their CMMC journey, whether it's level 1 or level 3, and kind of the consensus here on the call on this, is to go for level 3, because if you go for level 3, that puts you in a great spot. Going forward. Level 3 obviously is going to be more difficult to get to than level 1, which is just kind of basic cybersecurity. But kind of what is that one nugget of advice? What should somebody be thinking of to say, okay, I need to get started here, or I need to get going again? And also I'll ask you, do you know of any resources? What resources have been helpful to you, in your journey that you would like to pass along, other than the task force and what we're doing here? So that you can't cheat and do that one. But if there are other resources out there, I'd love to hear about them. So Allison G, we're going to start with you.
Oh, sure. Put me on the spot. Okay.
That's right.
I think that big picture, I think, is important when you're starting. It's really tough to get in the weeds and then get overwhelmed and get discouraged and think that it's too expensive and this is craziness.
Right.
But I think big picture wise, it's important to realize that this is the next thing to come is supply chain risk management. That's what's next. Mm-hmm. And essentially that's what this is already. It's just it's not being called SCRM just yet. And we are a cog in the bigger picture. So it's about the risk management, just like you are. I mean, the three of us, heck, the four of us on this call right now, we are constantly living and breathing risk management. If I do this, then what could happen? Right. You're looking at it from an IT perspective. So my advice to anyone entering this journey / road march would be, it's not about if you get compromised, it's when. So when that happens, how resilient are you? And all of these practices, and ultimately everything from NIST 800-171 to higher levels of CMMC, will help you not only prohibit and prevent what could be prevented, but also prepare you for the worst of circumstances. And everything else is going to flow. So if you are that, then what about the people that the paint shop that you've got to send that part out to, and that you do have to send the CUI, the printout to? What are they like? Ultimately, you want them to think like you do. I think to Allison's point, if you don't follow these, then how can you expect anyone else to, not just within your company? In terms of resources, gosh, I've got a list of ones that I've vetted and that I love, but some of the ones I'll just rattle off the top of my head. There's a Mira, but I think it's cmmcinfo.org or cmcaudit.info or anyways, Amira, I know if you look her up on LinkedIn, she's very active. She has wonderful resources that she shares. There's Compliance Forge, also known as CMMC Center of Awesomeness. They have templates, and they have a lot available that I've used. There's a Discord server with an active community of CMMC related people that are incredibly willing to offer free advice. They jokingly calculated all the hourly rates that they would be charging if they weren't just sitting there giving some free advice out. But that's been wonderful to have a hive mind there, especially for the small business. But I think that would be my best feedback.
Okay, fantastic. Miguel.
She took all the good ones. No,
that's right. So there is some advantage, Allison,
right,
to going first.
Yeah, the Discord server has really been my go-to tool as well, Allison. I have to share my username on there for you. But I like the free advice that you get there. And again, as has been mentioned on this talk before, we've all been through these same paces. I would go so far as to say my tidbit is beware of snake oil salesmen or saleswomen. That's my nugget, because you will, exactly as Allison G had said, and Allison S, kind of intimated this as well. There's a lot of folks out there that claim that you can write a check and you can be done. All your controls are finished, and there's just no such thing. It's there's no easy way to do it. Well, I'm going to say there's a lot of resources out there. It's a road that you can travel that hopefully we'll all be successful on. I think we've come a long way, but there's a lot of folks that come along and say, well, I do the compliance for the city of Detroit. And, they have all these credentials, and they tell you, for your 40-person small business, it'll only be $25,000 a month for the next 3 months. And then we'll get you all straight, you're going to hear a lot of those stories. And the kind of resources that you have here that are available in this discussion, and that in this seminar, this organization, all the various tools that are available. Really, in the state of Georgia, we're lucky. We have a lot of folks that are looking out for us, that are kind of on the leading edge and know that there could be problems in the future. You need to take advantage of those and compare them. But yeah, that's my nugget. I would say there's no quick fix, and beware of the snake oil salesman. And you sort of no free lunch, like Allison G, basically. It's
great advice. Miss S, Allison S.
Just to say what Miguel is saying, I just in the past month alone have received calls from various sales and IT companies claiming that they have some kind of certification. How can they have a certification if the pilot program is still really going on and they're only just certifying your auditors in your auditing companies? So if anybody tells you they have certification and that they can get it done for you in a month, 2 months, even 6 months, I'm going to tell you right now, there's no way. There's no possible way that is the truth.
Yeah, so, hang up on that guy right then.
Exactly. Don't even say have a nice day. Just be like, yeah, I don't think this is right, and just hang up that phone. I would say that Allison G and Miguel have offered actually my biggest nuggets of information. So I will say also, though, just remember, my whole analogy, love that elephant, which I actually got from our company president, Bill Visage. I've worked on lots of projects with him, and I am someone who likes to bite off more than I can chew. He tells me all the time, Allison, you can't eat the whole elephant. You got to break it up. So my advice would be plan. Look at the requirements, and they are broken into sections. And when you look at those requirements, a lot of them overlap. So it looks more daunting than it actually is, but by complying with one requirement, you can actually, you're actually complying with maybe even 6 requirements. So really read through everything and kind of give yourself a generalized plan. Don't nail it down too far, and don't nail it to the wall like a thesis and say this is just how it's going to be. It's always going to be evolving and changing for your company, especially as new information comes out and clarifications, and as people start actually, and companies start actually living with it. As far as resources go, I will just tag on to the other amazing ones that have already been mentioned. I am a huge Reddit fan. I love Reddit, and there are so many subreddits on CMMC, NIST compliance, and even just compliance to things like EMCP, ITAR, and other regulations that can help shuffle you on your journey down the road to other sources. For example, under a Reddit thread, I found the Boston College University put out an entire workbook with a dashboard, and it's interactive that you can go through and you can say, yes, I have this documented. Yes, I have this implemented, and it'll give you a score as to how well-rounded your program is. And that has been super helpful for someone like me because I'm very, very visual and I like numbers. So I like to see graphs move and stuff like that. So I would say, just like I was saying, use your sources, don't bite off more than you can chew, make a plan. Those are the most helpful things that we have, because you're also presenting this to your other fellow decision makers, and you kind of have to convince them that what you're saying you need to do is worth it.
Fantastic advice from everyone. Thank you so much. Before we go to Q&A, I'm going to bring Cassia Baker on, again from the Georgia Department of Economic Development, to just give us a few more resources that the state of Georgia has, the Georgia Defense Industrial Base has, that could be helpful to you. And so as we bring Ms. Baker on, we will, again, just ask her to tell us a little bit about what the Georgia Department of Economic Development is doing in conjunction with the task force and some of the resources that they have. Ms. Baker?
Well, thank you, Roy. And I was taking notes the entire time. I have new resources to add to my list, so thank you all for that. And thank you to our viewers who have been sitting with us through this panel. Again, my name is Cassia Baker. I'm with the Georgia Department of Economic Development Center of Innovation for Aerospace. And you are welcome to reach out to me directly if you'd like to be connected with additional resources. I can be reached at cbaker@georgia.org. You're also welcome to visit our task force landing page, tagonline.org/GA-DIBT, or our landing page, which is georgia.org/cybersecurity-edge. And Roy, thank you so much for moderating. I'll let you get back to our Q&A section, and please don't hesitate to reach out to me if you need any further support.
Okay, again, we'll look at the Q&A chat now, and thanks everyone for this wonderful discussion. All right, fantastic, everyone. Thank you so much to my panelists, Allison S., Allison G., and Miguel. We're going to go ahead and get into Q&A now. And Cassia, if you will look at the Q&A and help me kind of moderate that, that would be fantastic. I do want to, Allison mentioned kind of the Boston University workbook, which I thought was a fantastic thing. Cassia, I know you put together a workbook also for CMMC. Can you tell us about that a little bit and just tell us where we might find that?
Yes, and Roy, thank you for mentioning that. At the end of the broadcast, I see a number of questions in the chat about how to get links to the resources. We will be sending you all a survey, and when completed, you'll be provided with a few goodies. Upcoming slide deck from Mark Lubo of UGA SBDC, as well as the workbook that Roy has just mentioned, a CMMC Level 1 workbook to help you get started. We'll also share links to all the resources and a white paper that you'll likely find very helpful.
Okay, fantastic. And, just one more time, I know we said it at the very beginning, but I do want to make sure we say it now. Where is the Georgia Department of Economic Development and those CMMC resources that you talked about earlier?
You can find us directly at our landing page, which is georgia.org/cybersecurity edge. And again, while we wait for some of our panelists to come on board, you can reach me directly. You can send an email to cbaker@georgia.org, and I can point you in the right direction.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Cassia. So Allison, first question is going to be for you. One of the things that we did not talk about during the panel, we just ran out of time for questions, is kind of bringing things, to the here and now. I mean, over the past few days here in the Southeast, we've had a little issue, and that issue is gasoline, and we had Colonial Pipelines and ransomware attack, and that just kind of brings into play a whole lot around cybersecurity. But my question to you is, given that President Biden put out a presidential order that kind of is saying the government's going to really beef up cybersecurity and look a little bit harder at it and help companies and a lot of things. Have you had a chance to look at that order, and how will it affect kind of how you do things going forward, or will it?
So yeah, no, great question. I believe it's 34 pages long.
Yes, a little wordy, but
I did read it. I was expecting some pictures and maybe some cliff notes, and I saw neither. But yes, it's really, in my environment, I'm not seeing a direct impact, but that does not mean that we're not going to be impacted. I see it as impacting a lot of the people that are ultimately going to mean something to me. So for example, it talks about the government's involvement within industry itself, within their own agencies. It talks about software bills of material. So there are going to be some things that might come into play for manufacturers in that arena. And there's also, there are a lot of different pieces of the puzzle that anyone that's keeping up with the CMMC world recognizes that this may impact CMMC as a whole. So there is so much that is happening, and I think that just drives home the importance of finding those resources that are trustworthy, and the tags of the world, and those the task force, and staying engaged with those groups. And I think that's really the importance, because you can't keep up with all of this as a small business owner. You just can't be expected to follow along the whole time.
Right. And great thoughts, Allison. And Miguel, that kind of leads into my next question. One of the things that has been brought up before, and I know somebody direct messaged me around the cost, and they're concerned about the cost and this ever moving kind of target. You had FedRAMP, you had CMMC, now potentially because of the presidential order and the Colonial Pipelines issue, it may morph to something else. What would you tell a small business and how to deal with that, with this target that may be moving, because there are costs associated with shooting each and every one of those arrows that you're trying to hit that target. They're not free. And, what would be your advice around, how do you conserve your arrows? What target should you be shooting at? And just generally, how should you approach this thing? Now, I think you're on mute there, Miguel. There we go. All right, still not hearing you. We see you, but we don't hear you. So I tell you what, Allison, I will let you answer that, give your thoughts on that. And then Miguel, we'll work on your audio there and we'll get your thoughts on it.
Okay, I'm trying to channel Miguel, figure out what he would say. What would Miguel say? I think that no matter what you're going for, whether it's if you've been told you're about to be subject of a DIBCAC audit, or if you're going for CMMC, or if you're a cloud provider going for FedRAMP or whatnot. I think the name of the game here is there are a lot of core competencies, a lot of pieces that no matter what you engage in and no matter what you work to improve, it's going to carry over into a lot of different quote certifications. So don't improve your cybersecurity just to improve your, just to get the certification. Improve your cybersecurity for risk management. So
can you hear me now, Roy? Sorry.
We can hear you now. Yes.
That's perfect. What Allison just said. No, excellent channeling. No, I think in terms of cost, what Allison actually said on before the Q&A of 2%, that's probably a legitimate number in terms of your budgeting if you're having a budget. It is a little bit daunting every time a new requirement comes along and how do you spend your money. As a small business, that's something we deal with all the time. One of the things that we're looking at is, as a small business, sometimes there's mentorship, sometimes there's other opportunities, maybe to share some costs with some of your primes. So we've gone down that road before as well. We haven't pulled the trigger because we're not at that point financially where we had to. Or wasn't beneficial to us yet. So I would certainly look at that if there's a huge amount of cost involved. If you're starting from Windows 3.1 like our water jet, and it's just going to be a huge mountain to climb, then that's certainly something I would consider looking for folks that would help you. But again, we're lucky in Georgia, just like I said earlier, we have a lot of resources out there at very low cost or no cost to kind of help you with those arrows. It may not just be stroking a check every time, Roy. It may be just a little research and figure out how you can solve those problems.
Okay, great advice from both of you. One question that did pop up in the chat, I'm pivoting here just a little bit, and that was the difference between FedRAMP and CMMC. We're talking about those different targets, and we're shooting our arrows at the targets. We shot them at FedRAMP. Now we're shooting them at CMMC. Just, real high level, what do you think, and Miguel, I'll let you start, the difference between FedRAMP and CMMC and kind of how you're shooting your arrows?
Well, I'll tell you, that is we didn't do FedRAMP and then move on to CMMC just from our company's perspective. We sort of ate that all at the same time. So I'm probably not a good person to answer that question for you, because we didn't take that step. We basically started essentially with those NIST controls and then went from there. We didn't have any requirements that we needed the FedRAMP at that time. Maybe Allison G has a different experience because she's been in the business longer than us, but we didn't have that.
Okay, Allison?
No, I think actually you're right, Miguel. The FedRAMP, I don't see as many manufacturers reaching out for FedRAMP because FedRAMP is primarily for cloud-based services. And then the CMMC side, if you're FedRAMP, you're not necessarily CMMC. But if you, in the future, let's pretend like we're talking 5 years from now and CMMC comes to be, and if you are a level 3 CMMC certified manufacturer, you likely have covered most, if all, not all of the FedRAMP, if I'm remembering correctly. So if you're thinking about which one has more requirements, I believe it's CMMC, but they're kind of two different planes too. You wouldn't necessarily get one over the other unless you're providing services that qualify for both certifications.
Yeah, it's kind of like in the AS world, you have ISO, and then AS is obviously a subset or just a superset, adding a bunch more requirements than what ISO has. So if you're AS, then you're ISO. It's not exactly the same, Allison, but that was our thought. And that's why we have sort of glossed over FedRAMP in what we do.
Okay. Okay, fantastic question, answers. So one question in the Q&A is, they say I'm NIST 800-175 certified, and I'm wondering if I need the CMMC certification. My answer would be, it depends on what you're doing. And, what are you doing? Who are you doing it for? I think you have to look at your very specific circumstances with respect to that. They say they're middleman between DLA and excuse me, I'm not quite sure why I'm getting tongue-tied here, American manufacturing companies. So, what I would say to that particular person that asked that question, if you direct message me, we can maybe help answer that question a little bit more fully. All right, so question for you all. Given the current state of CMMC, and I'm seeing a fair amount of chat around this, no C3PAOs have been certified yet. You know, how are you all handling that? I mean, again, you know, we're moving towards this target called CMMC, but the CMMC-AB has not really stood up all of this stuff yet. Are you worried that a contract is going to come down the pipe that you're not ready for because it requires certification? You know, kind of what are you hearing out there in the ethosphere around the AB and what's going on there?
Honestly, I think I'm taking it as an opportunity, because I'm looking at it like, in a weird way, this slowdown or this delay is kind of to small businesses' benefit. For those who were NIST 800-171 compliant, or even DIBCAC certified, okay, well, you're ahead of the game. But for those who still had some things to bridge the gap on, now it's kind of like a gimme time. You just got you got free throws. Now you get to actually take this opportunity and get right with the Lord, so to speak, before all this stuff comes to pass. And honestly, as much as I feel for the assessors and the RPOs and those who have kind of planned out the last several months of their lives and the future several months of their lives on business, I feel for them on that perspective. For the small business manufacturer, I think we need to take this as an opportunity.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I always view, you know, challenges like this as an opportunity to get to stand out from the crowd if other folks are flat-footed. Kind of one of the issues has been the frequent delays. Like I said, you know, the framework way back in 2017, it was coming, and then you're going to be compliant by the end of you know, the year, December, and then the can got kicked down the road a bunch of times. So we're kind of in that position again. I don't know if Allison agrees. We're kind of in that same spot, but this time we know the train is coming. I mean, I don't think it's going to get kicked down, especially after, like Roy said, what happened, you know, with Colonial Pipeline. Living here in Macon, Georgia, we did have some gas stations closed. So, you know, that was a big wake-up call, and obviously the president has taken note. And things are coming down the road. So we won't be able to kick it down much further.
Okay. Well, Allison G, Allison S, Miguel, all great things must come to an end at some point. Time flies when you're having fun. So again, to all of you, thank you so much for you know, participating today, for your great you know, sharing of knowledge. Knowledge sharing is one of the things that, you know, we really need to ramp up in the cybersecurity world. And so we're very appreciative of you taking your time out to be on the panel today and to do Q&A. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Cassia.
And Miguel, I'd be remiss if I didn't call out from the chat that someone asked if your lunch and learns are open to the public.
No, it's just an internal. We do things like look at, you know, safety issues and some things like that. So no, but I'll tell you, if you want to attend a lunch and learn and you're interested, you call me. We'll just have a one-on-one lunch and learn, and we can share whatever knowledge we have.
Great.
Well, as always, thank you so much, Miguel and Allison. And we are going into our short 15-minute break. When we come back, we will go into our NIST 800-171 and beyond training, followed by our solutions panel. And many of the questions in the chat will certainly be ones that I will bring back up during our solutions panel. So thank you all for staying with us. We'll go into our short break, and then we will be back momentarily.